So you're interested in Cyberpunk, huh? Well, why don't you come check out Night City? We got a, we have, we, uh, please don't leave. Hello. Like I'm sure most of you, I was very excited when I saw that Cyberpunk was coming out, until I saw what it looked like when it came out. After watching that train wreck, I decided I probably wasn't going to try the game. And that held up for quite a while, but like the filthy weeb I am, I saw Edge Runners and decided to pick up a copy. I figured, you know, it's on sale, and after all, it's been 2 years. Surely they've fixed the glitches. And after getting into the game, I've got to say, it is definitely still glitchy, but I would be such a liar if I told you that it wasn't fun. Just the world alone is so fascinating to me. Night City is a place where the government and corporations have pretty much equal power, so, you know, give it 10 years and you'll have a pretty good idea what that looks like. I love that the final boss of the entire game is just angrier corporate-sponsored General Grievous. And I dare you to find another game that lets me turn my penis off in the character creation.
Minus the impressive cock.
With so much that I love about this game that I want to talk about, I think I'll just start with the gameplay itself. At the beginning, I wasn't a very big fan of the gameplay because it just started me off with a pistol, but once I found my first shotgun, I really started to come around. See, the game gives you a lot of leeway in how you can upgrade yourself. My advice would be to pick something you like and then run with it all the way. Mainly upgrading things that boost that, and then also finding complementary things to go with it. For example, my build that I affectionately refer to as Dio the Abusive Stepdad. The base of the build is melee damage. So, to go with that, I put all of my points into the Street Brawler perk tree. This does things like increase my damage, increase my crit, or increase my ability to block while using my fists. Now, the problem with melee builds is your doughy little flesh feelers aren't going to be able to kill a robot in one punch, so we're going to need something with some more power. So to compensate, I replaced them with the gorilla arms for that gorilla grip, so that I can gorilla rip your nuts clean off. And yes, yours, you, the viewer. Now this by itself is all well and good, but you might notice a glaring problem with my plan. Everyone in Night City has a gun. To combat this issue, I had my spine ripped out and replaced with a GeForce RTX 3090 graphics card. With these upgraded drivers, I'm able to pause time and close the distance before committing my felonious rhinoplasties. On top of closing distance, this ability also allows me to single out one target and beat the ever-loving piss out of them before time speeds back up. This build also allowed me to cover the base of dealing with groups, as I would simply slow down time then give them a gift that rhymes with Bragmentation Grenade. I say that to say this. My monkey brain strategy of just punching everything that moves is only one of many available strategies to you. In fact, it's not even the first one I went with, it's the last one that I ended on, and putting it together was half the fun I had in the game. The other area I got most of my enjoyment from the game in was the story.
You look like a cup of fuckable meat, are you?
The world of Cyberpunk is amazingly well written, and the story does a really good job of highlighting that and making you feel like you're really part of the city. With all the exaggerated swagger of a Night City resident. Now, because the story is one of my favorite parts of Cyberpunk, I'm almost entirely going to avoid talking about the main story itself. I'm mainly going to try to focus on side stories. I feel like side stories in a lot of games are kind of neglected. They're treated like side stories, as in something that was an afterthought. Even in some of the much more minor side stories, Cyberpunk has a way of throwing in something very interesting. For example, there's a side story that takes you through a series of boxing matches that take place around the city. One of these boxing matches is a set of twins that have their consciousnesses combined. Now, when I say combined, I don't mean that they have one collective consciousness in both bodies, but rather both twins inhabit both bodies. If this is a little confusing, watch the movie Fight Club, and then realize this doesn't really make sense, but then appreciate the fact that you saw a good film. You're welcome. During another side quest I was a big fan of, I met a death row inmate that believed he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. The way he wanted his story to end was to be crucified while recording a brain dance. Brain dances, for those of you that don't know, are essentially live leak for VR, with full 100% immersion. Now, the morally correct thing to do would be to realize this man is clearly mentally ill, and to try to talk him out of his fate. I considered doing that at first, and then remembered I was playing a video game, and it would be a lot more entertaining for me to crucify him. I was paid $3,000 for this. CyberPunk also has some somewhat repetitive side quests, but some that I still enjoy, like the cyberpsycho missions. Cyberpsychosis in CyberPunk is essentially the more chrome or cybernetics you get, the bigger strain it puts on your brain. Now, you as the player can walk around like RoboCop, but for the average Night City resident, 1 or 2 bad pieces of chrome is a one-way ticket to the loony bin. Now, the way you're supposed to do these missions is to carefully and stealthily take down these psychos. That way, doctors can study the condition more and try to prevent it in the future. But just throwing it out there, that's a lot more effort. The other form of repetitive mission I'm a big fan of is assaults in progress. The most common cause of death in Cyberpunk is gang violence. See, in Night City, the police suck, and most ongoing crimes are actually outsourced to freelance mercenaries. With this in mind, vigilante justice is not only legal, it is a optimal side hustle. In fact, the only time I ever actually ran into the police during my entire playthrough of the game is when I was fulfilling my duty as God's drunkest driver. Now, the one part of the main story that I do actually want to get into is Johnny's. Johnny Silverhand is not actually a living character in the game. He's a consciousness that's been downloaded onto a chip that's been placed in your brain and is actually keeping you alive. He was a domestic terrorist from 50 years ago that tried to blow up Arasaka Tower. The chip is what's keeping you alive, but it's also what's killing you. Johnny's consciousness is overwriting that of your own, so the two of you have to work together to find a way to stop it. When you first meet Johnny, he's not exactly the nicest guy.
Stick some iron in your mouth and pull the trigger.
But as the story goes on, the two of you become more and more alike, ending the story as insanely close friends, maybe even family. They did an amazing job writing Johnny's character. At different points in the story, he occupied the roles of my least favorite character and my most favorite character. Something great that Cyberpunk also does is it features multiple endings, as well as built-in save scumming at the point where the different endings diverge from each other. A greatly appreciated feature. The ending I got my first time around was incredibly depressing, and I can only describe myself as feeling hollow. I won't tell you which ending that was, as it would be a massive spoiler. However, if you want to avoid feeling equally Husk-like, I recommend a different one. Now, for as much as I enjoy the story of the game, you do need to be ready to have your immersion ripped away from you at any second. It's the great beyond. I was watching my best friend die in my arms, which was supposed to be a very sad and touching scene that was ruined by him hitting a perpetual light skin face at me. I know I showed some example of glitches in the opening, but I'd like to really get into them here. Now, playing the game yourself, you might get a taste of this fairly early on, because I've played through the intro several times and it still looks like this. The glitches will vary heavily in terms of how offensive to the gameplay experience they are. On several occasions, I've had to completely reload my game because a story-essential NPC decided not to come into work that day. Getting in a car is essentially inviting trouble into your life. Anytime I'm riding with an NPC, their lips are not going to move while you're talking to them. Driving too far causes reality to thin and straight up stop sometimes. I have on several occasions fallen through the floor. Other common glitches include characters displaying schizophrenia, common cases of spontaneous existence. For the longest time, I had thought I had seen Adam Smasher hitting the stanky leg during our boss fight. But upon reviewing the footage, it appears that may have just been a fever dream, which was quite strange. Oh, on the topic of strange, if you're ever on Reddit or Twitter or anywhere text-based, please don't abbreviate Cyberpunk. Please. Even though the glitches still exist and are somewhat prevalent throughout the game, they are far from game-breaking, and I wouldn't let them stop you from trying it out. I mean, where else are you going to find a game that has a mission where you find a missing woman, and the only way to do that is by having gay sex? There's no choice offered here. Stop looking. Cyberpunk 2077 is probably one of my favorite games that I've played over the last couple years. And after going through and playing it for the video, and then replaying it on several different occasions, getting all the side quests done just because I was that sucked into the story, I can definitely see why it got and why it deserves the labor of love award it got. It might still be broken, but broken in one of the best ways. Honestly, just because a game is glitchy does not by any means mean that it is bad. Glitches can oftentimes be fun and something added to the experience. And at the end of the day, as long as a game is fun, it doesn't need to be anything else, even if it was meant to be. If you are someone who was on the fence about trying the game or was considering giving it a second try because you were burned by the launch, I can't recommend doing it enough. In fact, if you have any interest in trying it at any point in time, go ahead and wishlist it on Steam and you'll be able to see when it goes on sale. I love the game and had a great time playing it, and I hope you all do too. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of the video. I'm trying to do some new things with my content, spending more time on videos and going for more quality. You'll probably have noticed that they'll be taking longer as this one took over a month. This is more of the style that I'm trying to go for, and I hope you guys like it, and let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions, any criticisms, anything like that. I'll probably be posting a poll the same day that I post this video, so if you check my community tab, you can go ahead and vote there. I'm between a few different games what I want to work on. I'm leaning towards Darktide. Oh, and if you have nothing better to do, check out my Twitter. It's bad, but, you know, you might like it. Also in the description, I have a Discord, where I'll be posting updates on videos and getting some feedback for new ideas. So if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to see you there. But I hope you guys were entertained enough to stick around and see what else I can come up with. Thanks for watching.